It is late enough that the water looks like glass, and the shoreline looks like a boundary line someone drew to separate the living from the lost. A horse stands at the edge, dark coat, wet mane, perfectly still, like it has been waiting for you specifically. And the most dangerous part is how normal it feels. Not supernatural, not dramatic, just a quiet invitation to step closer. In the legend, nobody is forced, nobody is dragged. The Kelpie wins by letting you volunteer, because once you touch the mane, the story says you cannot pull your hand back, and the water does the rest. Last week, we talked about selkies, the sea legends that feel like longing given a body, a story about identity, about what happens when someone hides the thing that lets you go home. This week, we leave the coast and move inland, where the water does not roar, it waits. Rivers that look shallow until you step wrong. Lochs that hold the sky like a mirror. Places that feel peaceful until the light changes. And in those places, Scotland tells a different kind of warning. Not a romance, not a tragedy of the sea, a trap, a predator shaped like help. This is the Kelpie, the water horse, the one that does not need claws because it has patience. In most tellings, a Kelpie is a spirit of fresh water, not ocean, not open sea, rivers, streams, lochs, crossings, the places you treat as simple. It is a shapeshifter, but it has a preferred costume, a horse, usually dark, sometimes gleaming, always just believable enough that your brain decides it belongs there. Sometimes it appears as a man, sometimes as a stranger who is too charming for a lonely road. But the horse is the version that shows up in the warnings most often. And the point is not what it looks like. The point is what it makes you do. Step closer, touch it, mount it, trust it for 1 second longer than you should. The Kelpie is not a creature that lives near water. It is the water wearing a shape. That makes you forget the risk. The Kelpie Rulebook. Every Kelpie story changes details, names, villages, even the weather. But the mechanics, the way it works, stays almost identical. So here is the rulebook, the 5 rules that keep showing up, like a signature left behind at the scene. Rule 1, it appears calm before it appears dangerous. The Kelpie does not crash into your world like a monster. It arrives like a coincidence. A horse with no rider. A horse that looks lost. A horse that looks like it needs help. Because fear makes people run. Calm makes people approach. And folklore understands that the best trap is the one you walk into slowly. Sometimes the Kelpie is described as unusually beautiful, almost too perfect, like it is designed to be admired before it is feared. Rule 2. The mane is the mechanism. This is the detail that turns a story into a warning you can feel. The mane is wet, heavy, sometimes described as sticky, like it does not want to be touched, but it wants to be held. In many versions, the moment you grab it, your hand adheres, not metaphorically, physically, like the water has become glue. It is not the bite that gets you, it is the inability to let go. Rule 3. It targets boundaries. Kelpies show up at edges, riverbanks, loch shores, bridges, fords, places where you cross from one side to another, places where one wrong step changes the outcome. That matters, because myths often choose locations that already have a history of accidents, drownings, disappearances, or sudden bad luck that nobody can explain. And the Kelpie becomes the story that gives that danger a face. Rule 4. It prefers the moment people relax. Dusk, early morning, the quiet hour when the world looks softer and your caution turns down. The Kelpie does not need darkness, it needs distraction. The day's guard dropping. The assumption that nothing dramatic happens in a place you have seen 100 times. Rule 5. The water is the exit, and it is one way. In these stories, once the Kelpie has you, it does not drag you into a cave or a den. It takes you into the water. And the reason that hits is simple. Water is not just scenery. It is an environment that turns mistakes into endings. That is the rulebook. Now we get into the case files, the versions that show how these rules play out. Case file 1, the extra rider. There is a type of Kelpie story that begins with kindness. A horse appears near the water, saddled or unsaddled, depending on the version, and it seems tame. A traveler finds it, or a group of children, or someone late for home, and the thought arrives like an easy solution. A ride, a shortcut, a harmless choice. One person climbs on, the horse does not move. It lets them settle. It waits until trust becomes weight. Then another person climbs on, and another. And here is where the story turns. Because there is always room, the horse stretches, not like an animal, but like a sentence that keeps adding words. It becomes long enough for everyone who assumes it cannot be a trap if it is helping. In some versions, one person reaches down to pet the mane for balance, and their hand sticks. They laugh first because it feels like a prank. Then they realize it is not. When the horse finally moves, it does not run along the path. It runs straight for the water. The riders pull back, try to jump, try to slide off, but the mane is a lock. The hide is a surface you cannot peel your skin from. And then the plunge. The horse enters the water like it belongs there, because it does. The ending is always the same. The water closes, the shoreline stays quiet, and the Kelpie leaves no evidence, except the memory of how calm it looked before it moved. Case File 2. The borrowed horse that returns drenched. Another recurring pattern is the borrowed horse story, the kind that makes you question whether the danger is supernatural, or simply the water's reputation wearing a face. Someone borrows a horse for a journey. Sometimes it is a neighbor's. Sometimes it appears unclaimed. Sometimes it is described as unusually strong, unusually fast, unusually willing. The ride begins normally. The road is familiar. The rider relaxes. The horse moves like it knows where it is going. Then the horse turns toward water. Not gradually, not accidentally, like it received a silent command. The rider pulls the reins. The horse does not respond, because in the legend, it was never trained, it was never owned, it was never meant to be guided by a human. In some versions, the rider escapes by doing something desperate and clever, like cutting a strap or slipping free at the last second, leaving something behind. And in the morning, the horse is found again, standing somewhere it should not be, drenched as if it has been dragged up from the bottom of the loch. No hoofprints leading back, no explanation for the water, only the sensation that you borrowed something that belongs to the river, and the river expects its property returned. Case File 3. The bridle, the iron, the only way out. There is also a different kind of Kelpie story, one where a human wins, but only by understanding the rules. In many folklore traditions, iron is a boundary, a substance that breaks enchantment, not because it is magical, but because it is shaped by labor and fire. A Kelpie appears, tame again, offering its back like a solution. But this time, someone approaches with caution, with a plan, with iron in hand. The moment the iron touches the Kelpie, the story says the creature reacts like it has been named out loud, like the disguise has been punctured. In some versions, the Kelpie is forced into service. It is harnessed. It is made to pull stones, or carry loads, or work like an animal, because once bound, it cannot return to the water. But that victory never feels clean. Folklore does not hand out happy endings without a shadow, because the Kelpie is not just a beast, it is a force, and forces do not forget. Case File 4. The Child by the River. This is the version that explains why the Kelpie legend lasts. It is a safety warning disguised as a nightmare. Children are playing near the riverbank. The water looks shallow, moving gently, the kind of place adults underestimate because it does not look like danger. A horse appears nearby, a beautiful one, a friendly one. It lowers its head like it wants to be stroked. One child climbs on, then another, because the horse is somehow long enough. It always is. Then the smallest child touches the mane. Their hand sticks. They call for help, and the adults arrive too late because the trap is already closed. The horse moves, and the river becomes the mouth of the story. This is why people repeated it, not to entertain, to keep children from water that does not care if you are small. Why the story exists without killing the mystery. Here is the thing. You can treat kelpies as literal monsters, or you can treat them as folklore's way of explaining the worst kind of accident. Either way, the pattern works. Fresh water is deceptive. It can look shallow and still take you. It can look calm and still pull you under. Cold water steals strength quickly. It turns panic into heaviness. It makes climbing out feel like trying to escape wearing a coat of stone. A horse by water is also normal in rural landscapes. That is why the disguise is perfect. It does not need to be unbelievable. It needs to be familiar. And the sticky mane, the hand that will not release, can be read like a metaphor for what panic does. When you are afraid, your body locks on to the wrong solution. You grip what you should let go of. Folklore calls that mechanism a kelpie, because giving the danger a face makes people remember. Even now, people share stories that sound like the beginning of the legend. A horse seen near a loch with no owner. A horse that vanishes when approached. A shape that looks equine until the light hits it raw. It is easy to say it was a trick of fog, a shadow, a real animal, a misread moment. And sometimes it is. But the reason the kelpie stays in people's mouths is not because everyone believes. It is because everyone has felt what the story describes. The pull of curiosity near water, the temptation to step closer, the confidence that nothing will happen. And that is what makes the legend work. It does not require belief. It only requires one careless second. If the selkie is about identity, the kelpie is about consent, not in words, but in choices. The kelpie does not attack you first. It waits until you say yes with your body. It waits for you to decide the horse is harmless. It waits for you to decide the water is shallow. It waits for you to decide you are the exception. And then it closes the distance you thought you controlled. So, if you ever find yourself walking beside dark water at dusk, and you see a horse standing perfectly still, like it is part of the landscape, remember the oldest rule in the file. Do not touch the mane, because the kelpie is not a horse that lives in the loch. It is the loch pretending to be a horse.